Welcome back. You're watching Morning Live. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, it gives audiences a history lesson with a modern twist that is set in an African context and is the brainchild of leading South African and renowned choreographer Veronica Paeper. That's a ballet production titled A Spartacus of Africa, which will be presented for a limited season at the Oude Libertas Amphitheatre from the 22nd to the 26th November 2016. Paeper has redesigned her original ballet that she created for the CAPAB Ballet in 1984, in which she incorporates contemporary dance with classical ballet. To tell us more about A Spartacus of Africa, we are joined from our Sea Point studios by contemporary dancer, musical theatre artist, actor and singer Xola Willie, who plays Nagash in the production. Xola, thank you very much for joining us. For a lot of people that would have heard for the very first time of A Spartacus of Africa, tell me about the production and a little bit, if you know, about the inspiration behind this production.
Thank you so much for having me. The story mirrors the original ballet of A Spartacus of Africa, the story about Spartacus himself and the journey he has to face against slavery and his triumph. It plays across and brings subjects of love. It tells his story about his love for his wife Phrygia and the fight and battle that he has to take against his rival Crassus, which I play in the ballet. It's inspired by the Roman original tale of Spartacus, but now turned into a ballet and reinverted to tell his story, which brings a lot of subjects that a lot of us can relate to, which is freedom, the love story, and fighting for what's right.
My recollection of Spartacus, and I'm only talking from a visual perspective, especially when you talk about the series, the movies and films, that it's quite a visually very strong. Normally, from a visual perspective, quite violent. How is Spartacus portrayed from a very ballet, from that perspective? And how do you then bring that visual element that some of us know from the Spartacus films onto a stage?
Well, it all comes forth with the choreography. Veronica Paeper was very wise in how she reenacted everything. All the acts tell the story in a narrative way. You have one of the characters, which is Isinyanya, that basically lays it out for the audience. You get the introduction of the different characters in the beginning, and as the story goes out, you see his journey from when he is enslaved to when he does triumph and does the rebellion with his fellow slave army. And then it leads on to how he has to leave his lover because of the fight that he has to go through with this Crassus rival. And eventually it ends off in a big battle, which is violent and which is a bit crude in the end of the acts. See that coming through as well.
Let's talk about your character. And do you, when you're playing the nemesis and you're playing a character that has to be physically imposing as well, where do you have to go to kind of portray that role? And what was the brief from Veronica when kind of you were picked for that role?
Okay, well, the role is a bit opposite to all my characteristics as an individual. He's more of a dark person, so he would be the villain in a typical story. He's very goal-orientated. He's very crude. People would perceive him as cruel as well because of who he is, because of how he holds himself. So he's kind of like the opposite to who I am, which is very interesting to play because it allows me to step into other territories that I have in terms of my acting abilities. Veronica was very wise in how she led the whole thing, making you understand how you should be, what the feeling that you should portray out should be. So it's a very interesting role for me, since it is the opposite of who I am. But it's nice to play the villain.
From a physicality perspective, just how physically demanding is a production of this nature in comparison to maybe something else that you've done in the past?
Quite. Dance is very demanding, right? Especially ballet, because of the technical ability that you have to have, the technical skills that you have to bring forth. You have a full day spent in rehearsals from 10 to 6 every day, with intense workouts, with intense classes, with intense rehearsals as well. So it is quite demanding physically. As a male, you have to do the pas de deux. As a female, you have to be on point. So it requires a whole focus, mental, physical, and emotional somewhat, because the story is an emotional roller coaster for most of the characters. They have to face defeat, they have to face hopeful situations, but it is jarring but exciting. Yes.
I can't imagine that you were around in 1984 when this was originally conceived by Veronica, but if you had to draw comparisons for us between the new Spartacus in Africa and the original one, what are some of the differences? Have you been able to see the original one that Veronica created?
Unfortunately not. In fact, I wish I would have been around that time, because can you imagine it being a grand ballet? But what has changed, what I can say has changed, is the manipulation and the involvement of contemporary dance. It isn't just a classical ballet now. You get it's a whole neoclassical feel to it. Although the pas de deux are still classical and technical, you find that there are aspects of the show that relate to newer age dance styles, contemporary styles, a more Afrofusion-y contemporary style, especially that it incorporates a lot of acting, it's a lot of storytelling as well. So it breaks away from the hard frame of ballet and makes it easy and more understandable and more exciting and thrilling.
Talk to me about the cast, because I can only imagine that when you're telling a story with such a distinctive style, that you need to be able to bring in dancers, actors that can portray those characters. What was it like working with Cassie and Elzan?
Amazing. The cast is very, very... It's a variety of people, right? It's a variety of dancers from all over the country. Dancers from Durban, dancers from Pretoria, dancers from Johannesburg, and of course dancers from Cape Town. So it's quite exciting being in an environment of such lovely different personalities, and the vibrant of all energy just comes forth. We have the Cuban dancers as well. That brings a whole different element to the ballet as well. Quite encouraging material from them and encouraging personalities around.
Talk to me, maybe one of the other things that I want to ask you about is new audiences. How we develop the new audience, because in 1984 you were also in a very different political situation. You talked about those kind of themes of freedom still being relevant today. Is this a production for a brand new young audience?
I would definitely think so. In fact, I really, really think it is. I mentioned freedom fighting. Spartacus goes through a lot in the show. It incorporates, there's a love story in it. There is freedom fighting in it. There is relationship conflict with the characters as well. So a lot of our audiences, a lot of our new audiences can really relate in terms of the drama and the journeys that most of the characters go through. The dancing is vibrant, the dancing is so exciting, it's actually really inspiring. I don't get to do much of the newer age materials, but it is quite inspiring for the newer audiences, as it does incorporate a contemporary feel, a more African feel to it. It's much looser and much, it's not rigid anymore, so it brings forth a lot.
Yeah. It does sound like a production that everybody who's in that part of the country should go and check out. That's contemporary dancer, musical theatre artist, actor and singer Xola Willie talking to us about a new production titled A Spartacus of Africa, which will be presented for a limited season at the Oude Libertas Amphitheatre in Stellenbosch from the 22nd to the 26th of November 2016. Go and get your tickets if you are in Cape Town. We're taking a break. Don't go anywhere.